So I have my lesson concept map here. I wanted to focus on character complexities, author's purpose, character motivation, cause and effect, and persuasion was a main topic of discussion when going into Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. So this is an idea of the prompt that I gave them all to do their own personal concept map. And this is how it turned out. In the middle, I asked them to give me what they felt honor was, give me an idea of honor, then give me 4 reasons surrounding that idea of why they believe honor is what it is. So this is student 1's grasp on honor. And so I wanted to make the concept map very particular to a certain thing that we will be discussing in Julius Caesar. KWL. The KWL was to give the students the opportunity to show what they knew, what they wanted to know. They asked me questions in the W card. And then after we had finished with that first act, they would tell me what they had learned thus far. So this is a completed chart from student 1. She told me what she already knows about Roman government and the man Julius Caesar. Then she asked me some questions about what was going on in the initial background before we started the play, because we did go over that, and then what she had learned thus far. Now this is a list of my activities that I have for my lesson plan. I start off with a pre-test, gave them an anticipation guide, which is just gauging their response on certain general statements that were themes leading up to the play. The KWL, which you just saw, the concept map, which you just saw. An analysis of Sonnet 121. I am a pentameter exercise in the end of Act 1 mini project, which they will be turning into me tomorrow, because I'm still actively in my 10 days of consecutive teaching. The pretest. Now this was to activate their prior knowledge before introducing the language. Shakespeare can be difficult for students, and it proved to be difficult for them. So I just wanted to gauge what they already knew about Roman government or any background they may have known about Julius Caesar the man. Okay? So this is a list of my results. This is why I love Google Documents. I put the pretest in Google Documents. I asked for their names, their class period, and for them to give me a response to those 5 questions. This is the data that I got from that pretest. It had it listed out by the class period, their last name, and the answer that they picked from each one, so I could use a collective amount of data for each of my class periods. Okay, Sonnet 121 analysis. Now this assignment was to help them understand the language. We decided to do a modern translation of this sonnet to start off in a small dose. Let's give them 14 lines, and let's see how they take those 14 lines before we get into a massive text like Julius Caesar. Okay? So they had to do a line-for-line translation in modern English. This is an example of the first student. The directions were to give me the rhyme scheme of the sonnet. Then we went over the first quatrain in class after I explained to them what quatrains were, and that sonnet is made up of 3 quatrains and an ending couplet. Then they had to get with their groups. This is where the group collaboration came in. They had to get with their groups and discuss the other 10 lines, piece by piece. Go through and translate those lines. So this is an example of student 2. Their writing is in the red. For the iambic pentameter exercise, I wanted to introduce them to a literary device that Shakespeare frequently employed in his writings. I wanted to give them an idea of how to look for and read iambic pentameter, because Shakespeare was such a brilliant master of it. So the hidden agenda to this was just to give them an idea of how Shakespeare should be read. I also told them that when you have iambic pentameter, you have 10 syllables per line, 1 foot to every 2 syllables. So if you have 2 syllables in a foot, you have 5 metric feet. This was to help them when they started reading, so that they would know that if you have to have 10 syllables per line, if there's an accent on a word, what does that mean? That means that Shakespeare added an extra syllable to stay in that guideline. Okay? So this is an example of the exercise that I gave them. I showed them what stressed and unstressed syllables were. When you have the emphasis, when you're going up. When not, that's the stress. When not, to be. The low part, those low and those short vowel sounds, that's the unstressed. So I showed them this. I took 4 lines from the sonnet and just gave that to them as a graded exercise. This is another example. This is student 2. The end of Act 1 mini project. To end Act 1, I created a project in which the students would be able to choose between 2 creative expressions of Act 1. They could choose a scene performance where they could perform a monologue themselves, or where they could create a 6-slide comic strip. Also with the performers, they could choose a friend with them in class, and they both could work on a scene performance together. Okay? This is just to give them an opportunity to learn the language. Also, I'm trying to see if those skills that I talked to them about, I'm a pentameter, and has set into them, that they're able to translate into modern language. This is the rubric. They're graded on organization, content, enthusiasm, quality. It was also creativity and knowledge of content. This didn't show the whole thing. It was actually on the link that I had. I can't really pull up the links right now. But yeah, that's the link. Now this is just an overall idea of how I would grade them on their performance or their comic strip. Okay. The analysis of the data, I chose 3 theorists. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. I really noticed a lot of interpersonal skills with my students. Before we start off each day, I would give them an eye-opener, and it was basically just a question, asking their opinion on it. They were general questions, but everything was related to Julius Caesar. I asked them about honor, what they felt about loyalty. And so this gave them a chance to really fellowship with each other and learn what the other peer was thinking. So they could really develop those interpersonal skills, outwardly, taking in what another student was saying, really understanding what that student was saying, learning about the thought processes of others, okay? Vygotsky's theories into classroom practice is broken up into several different components, but I chose language. And he says, language is a main means by which adults transmit information to children. Language itself becomes a very powerful tool of intellectual adaptation. What I learned from this is that my students struggled with communicating with me. I would say something, and then they would repeatedly ask me about whatever I've said with the instructions, and then I had to really learn to lock in on explicit ways of telling my students what I wanted them to do or whatever task I wanted them to perform. So Google Classroom really helped me with communicating with my students, as they always use Google Classroom. They would go up there and find a written version of my instructions, even if they were not there to hear me verbalize them. Okay? Language between adult and student is pivotal to the learning process. If the student does not comprehend, how can he or she learn? So I wanted to make sure that they understood what I was saying and gave them many opportunities and ways to communicate with me. Neil Naughton's ethics of care. It's an argument that caring should be a foundation for ethical decision making. Now, there were plenty of instances where students had to be absent from school due to school-related activities or personal activities. Many of them were athletes. They would go visit schools. They were very busy students. So I had to be caring and sympathetic and compassionate to this fact. So instead of just piling a lot of work on them because they had 7 other classes, I'm like, just do the most important assignments, the graded assignments, and you'll get up to speed because all the assignments are on Google Classroom. So that really, really helped me and really helped them, relieve them, because they didn't have all of that work to do to catch up with the other students. And a lot of them were looking at Google Classroom while away or on vacation or whatever they were doing. Okay, so my essential question was, how does Shakespeare use language to develop character complexities, especially in relation to their motives? He employs certain literary devices such as I and the pentameter to illustrate a persuasive tone amongst the characters. It was all about persuasion with him, and especially in Julius Caesar. So that's the thing that I try to stress to my students. The use of technology was very helpful, using Google Classroom and being able to really break it down for them. I had all of my assignments on there. Actually, my cooperating teacher, Mrs. Thomas, helped me to set up folders where I had a folder full of assignments and activities for every day. Okay, so that was very helpful. The use of small groups, that was a pro for me, because I did get some skeptical looks when I said we're going to group together and read the play. You're not going to be sitting by yourself. We're going to group together and we're going to really piece through this language. But it ended up really helping them in the end. It was very helpful to them to be able to connect to another student. Also, if they were absent, you didn't have to go around whispering in someone's ear trying to find someone. You could get that information from your group members. Okay, the student-to-teacher communication, that started off rough, just learning how to explicitly say what I wanted them to do or explicitly give them a task, but it's much better now with the use of technology and just making sure that they're not uptight about the assignment, just reassuring them. So in the future, I will focus more on scheduling conflicts and school-based interruptions. I did not know how much we would be interrupted in the classroom with certain various things going on. So in the future, I will make it a point of mine to counter in those variables, because I didn't think of every variable. Just, get up there and teach. I'm just going to get up there and teach. It takes a lot of planning and skill to teach. You can't just wing it. Okay, so this is my teaching video.